Exactly. So I was like, hey, like if I finish this thing, I score a point. And if I don't, we don't lose anything. She just laughs at me. She's like, let's go ask Coach Webb. And Bill Webb, was the head coach at Tennessee for ages, and like he's a phenomenal guy. I love this guy. We go down and we're like, hey, how do you feel about him jumping in the steeplechase? And he looks at me. He's like, what? You're a decathlete. What do you want to do something stupid like that for?
This episode of the Smart Athlete Podcast is brought to you by Solpre, skincare for athletes. Whether you're in the gym, on the mats, on the road, or in the pool, we protect your skin so you're more comfortable in your own body. To learn more, go to solpre.com. Today on the Smart Athlete Podcast, my guest is a former NCAA Division I decathlete, currently taking those talents and competing in triathlon. He is a USA Track and Field certified coach as well as a USA Cycling certified coach, and he's taking those talents and coaching at Coastal Carolina University. Welcome to the show, Ben Yocum.
Howdy.
A little bit different getting the read off before.
Yeah, not really used to getting introduced.
That's how a lot of people are, which is fine. But it's like a few weeks ago, I talked to Richard Feynman, and he's like job searching. He's like, "Did you get my CV?" Just trying to like get through all of his stuff. But I feel like, and you probably come across maybe the other coaches that you work with. There's a lot going on with people, especially kind of, I'll say, at the point that they're in their career, they've accumulated a fair number of things that they've done.
Right.
So I think sometimes we forget, oh yeah, I did do that, and oh, I can do that, and so I always like to like make sure everybody gets their credit where credit's due.
Right.
So we talked on the phone the other day a little bit. I'm going to try to see if I can get you to commit here. You're thinking about Louisville Ironman in 2020. So what's the hesitation? What can we do to push you towards signing up?
So I did Chattanooga this past September, and that was a fantastic experience, shy of the swim getting canceled.
You did the full?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Loved that bike course. Like it was incredible. The run course there is tough. Just from an element standpoint, just Barton Hill is nothing to be messed with. I think anybody that has ever run that course will tell you the same. But yeah, so and then after doing that and like spending just what it takes to actually train up for a full Ironman, I was like, this next year needs to be a down year. I need to recover. I need to like do some things from a social standpoint because the training work balance meant no social for almost a whole year there, and that wasn't fun. So
that's what a lot of people say, is just like it eats up all of life. So then like all your loved ones are in with it on you, just because you're doing it and they are your support crew basically. So it's all consuming from what I understand.
It's and it's the kind of thing where like coaching at the level that I'm coaching, on top of trying to train for it, there were a lot of life lessons that came along with balancing everything out across the 10 months or so that I was training up. And then I also had the like kick in the backside where I'm trying to think if it was roughly January, February that I came down with mono. So February, March, April, May were all just shot. Like I was not doing anything from a training standpoint. So half of May, June, July, August, September was my training base.
Yeah.
So that was not an ideal scenario whatsoever.
Yeah, it's so did you have base going into it before that, or was it like
Yeah, no. So like
okay,
going into December, like so September, October, November, December, I had 16 weeks
hmm
of really solid base going.
okay,
I was probably running 40 miles a week at a decent clip for me.
hmm
And then January hit, and my energy, I just felt like a slug, and I was like, well, this is different.
Yeah, that's one of those like I'll run through a cold, but if it's like you can't really run through mono or train through mono or
You
fever or
can't.
like there's a lot of things. It's just you can't do it.
Yeah, you literally just have to sit down, sit on your hands, and go like, all right, we're gonna bide our time, and it's just gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, you're saying, you had those like 4 or 5 months there and leaving the race, and I'm like, that's just people do it, but it always seems bananas to me when like people go from say like I'll call it like couch to Ironman. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, exactly. Or like Iron Man's gonna be the first race that you do.
Yeah,
And I was a decathlete in college. Like 1500 meters was the longest race I ran.
yeah,
I mean, in most decathletes like dread the 15. Like I actually enjoyed the 15. Like I was a 427 guy.
okay,
So like I could run a decent clip. And like to do that, I could I had enough of a running base. Like I ran cross country in high school, and like
hmm
I want to say I ran like 17 flat for 5K kind of thing.
okay.
But I ain't done anything like that since, there's an infamous story floating around out there about me running a steeplechase, 3K steeple, my
hmm
senior college that we won't necessarily go into, but
Well, I ran the steeple, so now I want to know because I have this theory that no matter how good a shape you're in, I don't care. I've talked to a lot of people that run the steeple. No matter
uh,
how good a shape you're in, the very
yeah.
first steeplechase you ever do hurts like the hell the whole way through.
So, okay, I'll go ahead and tell you the whole story. So we're at SEC quad meet with
Okay.
Tennessee. It might have been Florida and Arkansas, and we're at Tennessee.
hmm
And I look around and I kind of realize, like, I'm done for the day, and I realize that we've only got one guy entered in the steeple. So if
hmm
I finish it, I score a point.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I grabbed my coach and I was like, "Hey, what do you think about running the steeple?" And she's like, "You want to do what?"
Well, you already know how to run hurdles. I mean, the
Right.
thing's a barrier, just getting over the barrier with the pit.
Exactly. Exactly. So I was like, "Hey, like if I finish this thing, I score a point. And if I don't, we don't lose anything." She just laughs at me. She's like, let's go ask Coach Webb." And Bill Webb, was the head coach at Tennessee for ages, and like he's a phenomenal guy. I love this guy. We go down and we're like, "Hey, how do you feel about him jumping in the steeplechase?" And he looks at me. He's like, "What? You're a decathlete. What do you want to do something stupid like that for?" I said, "Coach, somebody bet me I couldn't do it." And he's like, "Right on, jump in, buddy." So I'm in there with a handful of guys that ran like 9:05, 9:08 the week prior.
Yeah.
These are not guys to be like trifled with.
Right.
Now, our distance coach grabs me by the shoulder right beforehand. He says, "Whatever you do, don't go out fast."
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. So what do? I go out on the shoulders of these guys that are in the front because 72-second quarters feels slow to me at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking we got 2 miles worth of this. And I had no concept of what the
The
barrier.
barrier, the five, it's like 2 miles and five barriers a lap.
Right. Right. And like I was hurdling like a champ because, like,
Yeah. Yeah. You know how to hurdle. You're a decathlete. You've done it.
Yeah, 36-inch barriers instead of 42s
You're
is
probably just
nothing.
stepping over them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And man, first mile, I'm cruising.
Mm-hmm.
2Ks. I'm like, yeah, 2Ks. Wait a minute, there's another 1,000 freaking meters of this. That next 2.5 laps was the most painful 2.5 laps of my entire collegiate career. Like I got the golf clap coming down the last straightaway. Like it
Oh
was
man.
they were trying to pull the barriers off. They were trying to get lined up for the next event. Like it was ugly.
But you got that point, right?
Hey, 1 point, man. And if I remember right, we actually won that meet by like half a point or a point, or it was something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was basically the go ahead point, and old Bill Webb was hot. Oh, he was hot. He gave the go ahead on that one. But yeah, so that was, and of course, my coach at the time, Coach Fry, like loves telling that stories. Man, we had this decathlete. He just jumped in the steeplechase just because.
Do what you got. Hey, and that seems like it's not an unusual situation. Like the steeplechase is a pretty, I'll say, specialized event, and
Right.
oftentimes it like. So I was at an NAIA school that's now Division 2. So like our meets didn't have typically as many as like a Division 1 school would have,
Right.
and sometimes you only have it'd be me and like 4 other guys. So there's 3 spots. If you stick anybody in there, they've got
Yep.
points, and they just
Yep.
don't. So it's not unusual that that happens.
Yep.
But
Uh,
I'm glad to see like my theory stands up that no matter what, that very first steeplechase, it hurts like hell.
well, and I'll tell you a funny story is a couple years later, post collegiately, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna jump into another steeplechase. I'm gonna like I'm in better shape now. Like I'm running distance stuff. It's gonna be
Okay, well now
better.
you're just a glutton for punishment.
Well, that's what. Where do you think I got into triathlon?
Well, right.
I so I had zero interest in going out to the longer distance try stuff for a
Mhm.
long time.
Yeah.
And my buddy, who actually ironically was the other steeplechaser in that race,
Hmm.
he calls me up. He says, "Hey, come do this half Ironman with me in New Hampshire." I'm like, I don't know, bro. He's like, no. You got plenty of time to train for it. You'll be fine. It's like 5 hours worth of work. You'll be great. Like, I don't know, bro. Man, and if you look up the course profile for the old Timberman race,
Hmm.
that thing is a bear. Like it is an absolute bear. Not just the bike course, but the run course is just it was horrendous. I will never see another half iron course anything like it, short of maybe like I haven't even maybe Mont Tremblant would be
That's kind of what I was thinking. I haven't raced either, but that was what came to mind. Was I'd like to compare the two.
yeah. I've heard it's very similar in that regard. I was actually signed up to do Tremblant the year prior to chat last year.
Hmm.
Had some family stuff going on. Had mom got real sick, so training stuff went out the window, and I was like,
Yeah.
hey, we got to take care of moms. But so yeah, but yeah, no. Once you get that itch, once you get that like nasty little fungus that gets under your skin that says go longer, go longer, go longer. There's this other random little itch that says it doesn't matter if you go slow, like you can just keep going longer. I've got the infection. Like it's
Hmm.
gross, and it's kind of funny because like I'll talk with my kids about trying to run fast. Like
Hmm.
I used to be reasonably fast. I am nowhere near anything that I would call fast anymore.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy cranking on some long miles.
Mm-hmm. Well,
You know,
I mean, you need to if you want to go the long distances.
well, right, right. So there's that.
It it seems like, I mean, you're a decathlete, so you're a pretty big guy, I would assume.
5'10". At race weight, I'm probably closer to 175.
Okay.
Currently, I'm pushing closer to 190.
What were you
Uh,
in college when you were doing decathlon?
I was like 177 was competition weight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
175, 177. Probably about 4% body fat. Just real lean,
Yeah.
real strong, like pound for pound.
Yeah. Did you do, and this is just a personal curiosity, did you do pole vault in high school or did you have to learn that in college?
Oh, so the vault I was actually one of the very fortunate decathletes that had the vault in high school. So like I was a 400, 800 cross country guy plus the vault in high school.
Okay.
But I was self-taught with the vault, so my freshman year was all like relearn the vault,
Yeah.
which was almost worse than coming in with no bad habits.
Yeah, you gotta like break everything down and finally the coach would be like, okay, no, like your inversion's wrong and
It was all wrong. It was all wrong. The only thing that was right was my like fearlessness of the event.
right.
Like that was the only thing that was right about anything.
So like how do you translate that? I mean, now that you're on the other side and now you're like working with athletes, how do you take all that those and like translate that into, helping your athletes,
Right.
be the best they can be?
So much of coaching period is relationships, right?
Hmm.
So having sitting down on a regular basis, having conversations, and just being like, hey, here's where we are. Here's where you're telling me you want to go. These are not my goals. These are their goals. Like
Hmm.
I am not the guy to sit there and go, hey, you ought to be at NCAA's. You ought to be, a world class athlete.
Hmm.
I push as little of that in their direction as I can, unless they're just absolutely oblivious, and sometimes that's a really good thing. Um, but the so and part of to back up a little bit too. My master's degree is actually in motor control and rehabilitation.
Okay.
So basically, I did a whole bunch of stroke rehab reading in college.
Okay.
Uh, but and which is really nothing more than skill acquisition. So taking all of the little pieces, taking like the small piece, the small piece, the small piece that all add up
Hmm.
to build the castle. So, and the metaphor that I always use with the kids is if you take five Legos and you try to put them all together at the same time, how well does that work? Right?
Right.
Generally speaking, it doesn't work very well unless you're just super freaky coordinated to put five Legos together at the same time.
Yeah, one Lego on each finger and somehow you're
Yeah, it doesn't work. So like if you just take two pieces and you put them together, and then you put two more pieces together, and you put two more pieces together, and you put two more pieces together, keep your head down and just keep putting the pieces together.
Hmm.
Sooner or later, you step back and you built the castle.
Right, right.
And I think like if we're talking about distance and triathlon and all that, it's really no different. Like you put the pieces together one at a time. You get yourself into where like, okay, I understand what I'm doing with my running. And you can go way deep in the rabbit hole on any one of the different disciplines,
Hmm.
but you know establishing a basic understanding of each. Okay, cool. Now let's establish a basic understanding of what it means to go out of the water in a supine position where your blood's flowing nice and smooth, and you stand up vertically and your heart rate shoots through the roof, and in the back of your head you're going, WTF, man, what's going on?
Yeah.
I know how to ride a bike, and all of a sudden you can hardly speak words. So, understanding what that transition actually feels like, and, that infamous first half mile or mile off the bike in your first triathlon race, that's a major wake up call.